After escaping the clutches of Princess Mine and the three other heroes, Steve still had set that the group should head to Siltveld. It was the only country that would be open to giving them class upgrades that they desperately needed in preparation for the next onslaught of the waves. However, almost as if Steve knew this was going to be an outcome, the borders to Siltveld had been closed down by the kingdom. Of course, they could potentially fight their way through, but knowing how heavily guarded they would probably be, and that the other heroes had the capability of using teleport, in all likelihood they'd just get overrun and captured, or far worse. So, with no choices, they'd have to go in the opposite direction to meet with the Queen, who was still residing in another country. Of course, for Steve and the others, the situation had only gone from bad to worse in their mind. They were now all viewed as wanted criminals in the kingdom. Of course, Melty still had hope that if maybe she went back home, she could try to speak reason with her father. Despite everything that had happened, and suspecting that Mine was the one responsible for her assassination attempts, she didn't think her father would be behind it. But Steve would have to give the girl a dose of reality. "I understand why you want to go back, Your Highness," Steve would say. "Truly I do, but you have to think about it logically. Chances are, before you even get a chance to meet with your father, who, if I'm being honest, I doubt will change his opinion on me or my group, you'll most likely be intercepted by your sister. You'll be taken to a secluded area and you'll be killed. Worst of all, that death will probably be pinned on me and the rest of us, only adding to the growing list of people that want us dead. And there's no telling how much they'll fudge with the evidence. There's no telling what they'll do to you. You've already seen how far your sister's willing to go just to get to the throne, and as such, it's just not a risk you can take. Honestly, the best thing we can do is get you to your mother, the Queen. It's the only place you can go to where you'll be safe." And as such, they would make their way to the Queen. In doing so, they would pass through a manor that was owned by a close friend of the Queen, a noble by the name of von Reichnott. Reichnott was willing to assist Steve and his group, giving them aid and shelter, protecting them from the various soldiers who were looking for them at that time. However, there were those who were loyal to the king, those who had their own ambitions. Another nobleman by the name of Rabier, a rather large and round fellow, who cared for only the finer things in life, and there was no practice too disgusting for the likes of him. Raftalia and the others would hide away as the count in question would make his way into the home of Reichnott, having him captured under the order of treason against the throne. Of course, Melty would go with them, allowing Steve and the others a chance to hide, hoping that she could speak on Reichnott's behalf. You see, in the manner that Reichnott owned, he did not enforce the slavery of the demi-humans, unlike some other places of Melremark's territories. You could say that the relations between humans and demi-humans were tense, to say the least. The humans despised the demi-humans and worshipped the three heroes, and thus why the Three Heroes Church was founded. They were opposed to the Shield Hero, the Devil of the Shield as he was often recalled. But the demi-humans, they revered the Shield Hero, and it wasn't often unseen that they weren't too fond of the other three heroes in question. You could almost say that it caused a form of a civil war, a divide amongst which of the four cardinal heroes would be praised and who would be condemned. The demi-humans took the side of the Shield Hero, and as such, countries that were primarily demi-human were in favor of the Shield. But non-demi-human territories, they were not so much. Slavery even went between both sides as well. It wasn't uncommon for humans to be enslaved in demi-human territory, and demi-human slavery was all the rage in the human territories themselves. While Steve could definitely understand the plight of the demi-human, at the same time, he didn't like the idea of the other side trying to retaliate with dirty tricks and underhanded tactics themselves. It just brewed a never-ending cycle. If there was a way to unite all four groups, to bring them together as one, I mean, at least in Steve's mind, a human and a demi-human weren't all that far apart. The demi-human looked like a regular human, save for having the features of, say, animal ears and maybe a tail at least, but that was as far as you go. There wasn't really much difference between either side in the grand scheme of things. But that only added more so to Steve's understanding of the world, and why it wasn't so different from his own. The idea of classism, racism, hatred, those seemed to persist no matter where you went. It was almost disheartening. Whenever you dreamed about going to another world, you imagined a peaceful utopia. But maybe that was just the illusion. Utopia was harder to find. Of course, Steve and the others, once the coast was clear, would chase behind to see where Melty and Ragnar had gone. However, the Count Rabier had been torturing Ragnar much to his amusement, and in front of Melty no less. It was only when they had gotten in and gone in for the rescue, under the cover of the demi-human revolts who were trying to free the only human who had been kind to them, and to free him from his torture. For Raftalia to come face to face with that man, it brought back a lot of feelings, a lot of repressed memories. Raftalia's village was destroyed during the first wave. The villagers were enslaved by Melremark's troops, much to the dismay of those who thought they had loyal allies. Raftalia and her friends, they were sold, used by Rabier as mere tools, whipped, beaten, tortured, abused in every way, shape, and form. For Steve to see Raftalia in such a state, and to understand why she was feeling the way that she was, he couldn't say that he blamed her. He was repulsed by the man. He couldn't imagine what the poor girl had to endure, and the fact that she wasn't even in his original care. That was how little he thought of her. To just sell her off again and again. This only added more so to the rage that was bellowing inside of Steve. This cry of injustice that couldn't be ignored. He didn't know what he was going to do in this world, but one thing was for sure. Before it was all said and done, he was going to leave it better than he found it. Of course, for Raftalia, she had her chance to take revenge, but she chose not to. She didn't give in to the hatred. You could say that Steve had that type of effect on her. As such, she chose to spare his life, but sadly, he would not take the gracious offer of freedom she had given him. Instead, in a last-ditch effort, he attempted to strike her from behind as she used her sword to strike him down. However, this would not spell the end for the Count, as he would use his own form of magic to summon an ancient, powerful beast. Steve recognized it as a Tyrannosaurus, although it was enhanced with that of a dragon monster. It was definitely powerful, and it was currently running rampant. But there was also something else. Under the manor, Steve, Raftalia, and the others, they discovered the horrid conditions where the slaves were kept. Inside of the prison, Raftalia would find one of her old friends in Kiel. She was so thankful to see that he was still alive, but when she asked about the fate of her other close friend in Rafania, she learned of her fate. Rafania and her remains had been left to rot in the cell. It caused Raftalia immense grief, believing that she had abandoned her friend, that for all the good fortune that she had managed to receive in her life, why couldn't she have offered it to those who needed it the most? Steve would comfort Raftalia, even he being a loss for words. To see her going through such pain, it tore at him in a way that he had never felt before. He never wanted anyone to experience something like this, especially someone that he cared for so deeply. With his help, they would give her friend a proper burial, because no one's remains deserve to be locked in a place like this. They would quickly turn their attentions to the great tyrannous beast that was still running rampant, looking to defeat it once and for all. But thankfully, help would come from an unexpected source. A philolial bird, similar to Philo but bigger and larger, would make its way and do battle with the Rex dragon beast, destroying it once and for all. It would then transform into its human state. Melty recognized that it was the philolial queen, Fitoria, who was the guardian of the philolial sanctuary that was far off in the ruins. As they met, she would explain that long ago she was raised by one of the ancient cardinal heroes, although she had lived for so long she couldn't remember who it was, although Steve had an inkling that it must have been a previous S.H.I.E.L.D. hero. However, that was not the reason for her calling them here. The reason for her doing so specifically was for two reasons. One was because she believed that her next successor would be Philo, that she would go on to become the philolial queen. But also it was to speak with Steve. While the others had been resting in the night after enjoying a meal, Steve and Fitoria would speak amongst themselves. I have had to defend the other countries that could not defend themselves during the waves, all because the four heroes could not cooperate. You should all be ashamed of yourself. I can't say that you're wrong. You actually agree? Of course I do. It's not like I haven't been trying to work with them. They're the ones that refuse to work with me. Every time I see them, all they have are resentment, hatred, jealousy, anger. And now they're looking to take my life. It's not that I'm not trying to make things work, but you should know, S.H.I.E.L.D. hero. If you all cannot make amends and work together, I will do what I must, even if it means killing all four of you, so that four new heroes can be summoned. Now wait a second, Steve would say in defiance. Don't you think you're going a bit too far? I must do what is best for the sake of the world, not for the sakes of those who cannot get their act together. That's not the point, Steve would say. The situation is far greater than just a few people that can't get along. We're talking about kingdoms. Do you understand that? I can put just as much blame on all of your kingdoms in general. Because of your refusal to cooperate. Because of this endless fighting amongst yourselves. Even if you kill all four of us, what's that going to do? They're just going to summon another round of heroes. They'll treat the three other heroes better than the S.H.I.E.L.D. hero that will only build resentment, and the process will repeat itself. And from the way you've been talking, ma'am, you don't have much time. So tell me, how many cardinal heroes do you think you can kill in a row until you finally get the perfect group that works for you? You're no different than them, Steve would say. You dare compare me to the likes of you humans? You humans who have endless squabbles? You humans who can never put your differences aside? And you think that killing is going to solve that? What's killing going to do? What's it going to help? You have to make them see reason, to understand where they're wrong. If you just keep kicking the can down the road, things are never going to change. We'll be stuck in the same situation forever and ever. Perhaps you are right, Shield Hero. Maybe so. You have given me much to think about. The next morning, much to everyone's dismay, Vittoria had taken things into consideration. She took Melty hostage. Raftalia and Aki had their swords drawn, but Steve would tell them to stand down. What's the meaning of this, Vittoria? If you truly wish to save your friend, then you, young Philolial, step forward. She pointed to Philo. While nervous, Philo would step up for her friend. The two would engage in Philolial combat. For Vittoria, this was a test, to see if she had what it took, if she could be the queen that she was destined to be, that she needed her to be. In the midst of combat, Philo would hold her own, managing to stand to the Philolial queen, Vittoria, and being able to outmatch her. Being satisfied with what she had seen, Philo would be dubbed as her successor and would be granted an instant boost in her base stats. While she was still young, she would gain the feather crown, and soon, Philo would grow into the role of being the next queen of the Philolials. Of course, for Vittoria, she was grateful that Steve hadn't interfered, as he was able to see through what she was really trying to do. But still, she did leave her warning for Steve, to try to make it work with the four heroes by any means necessary, because they would have to work together if they possibly hoped to defend the world from the oncoming waves. They had to learn that saving the world was far different from just saving people. Saving people was nice, but it didn't get you where you needed to go in the long run. And for Steve, he understood that quite dearly. You're a man that's made a lot of sacrifices, Shield Hero. I can see that. And I don't question your loyalty or your valor. You are correct. But there is an area where you are wrong. The change starts with you. You have done good, but you have not done enough. You must get the other heroes to see reason. I will gift you this. She would cause an enchantment on Steve's armor, allowing him to be resistant to the negative effects of the Rage Shield. You have a fury within you, a righteous fury. I believe this power, you can use it well. Please, reconcile with the heroes. Unite and join as one. It is the only chance you'll have for peace. Vittoria will allow for the group to rest, and soon she would take them to a near outpost where they were bound to find the other heroes. The night before, however, Vittoria would speak with Steve alone one last time. It goes without saying, but you do know that the next time you see the other three, they are going to try to kill you. That I can guarantee. You want me to go confront them. I cannot fully see the future, but I can tell you this. There are two outcomes. Well, technically three, but the third outcome, the true outcome, it is one that will be filled with great sorrow and pain, but it will be the only way to lead your comrades to a brighter future. When you meet the three heroes, they will try to kill you. If they succeed, all will be lost. If you are forced to kill them, then all will be lost. Just as the three heroes cannot stand without the shield, you also know that the shield itself cannot stand without the sword, the spear, and the bow. You will either all be united or you will all be destroyed. It will only be when you all stand together that you will achieve the future that you are truly destined to have. You will only get one chance. You will get one moment to make a decision that will share the fate of all the heroes. I only pray and hope that when the time comes, you'll know what to do. That night, Steve had a lot to think about. Tomorrow, he was destined to meet with the other heroes. And either they would stand together or they would die together. This concludes The Rising of the Shield Hero, The Man Out of Time. What If Captain America Was the Shield Hero? Season 1, Part 5. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned next Monday morning as we will continue with The Rising of the Shield Hero, The Man Out of Time. What If Captain America Was the Shield Hero with Season 1, Part 6. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.